Hello, I'm Hazel from BSBA 2. Our topic for today is responding to globalization. What is globalization? Globalization, or globalization, is the process of interaction and integration among people, companies, and governments worldwide. Globalization has accelerated since the 18th century due to advances in transportation and communication technology. This increase in global interactions has caused a growth in international trade and the exchange of ideas, beliefs, and culture. Globalization is primarily an economic process of interaction and integration that is associated with social and cultural aspects. However, disputes and diplomacy are also large parts of the history of globalization and modern globalization. Examples of globalization, concept map. Because of trade developments and financial exchanges, we often think of globalization as an economic and financial phenomenon. Nonetheless, it includes a much wider field than just flowing of goods, services, or capital. Often referred to as the globalization concept map, some examples of globalization are: economic globalization is the development of trade systems within transnational actors such as corporations or NGOs. Financial globalization can be linked with the rise of a global financial system with international financial exchanges and monetary exchanges. Stock markets, for instance, are a great example of the financially connected global world, since when one stock market has a decline, it affects other markets negatively as well as the economy as a whole. Cultural globalization refers to the interpenetration of cultures which, as a consequence, means nations adopt principles, beliefs, and costumes of other nations, losing their unique culture to a unique, globalized superculture. Political globalization, the development and growing influence of international organizations such as the UN or WHO, means governmental action takes place at an international level. There are other bodies operating at global level such as NGOs like Doctors Without Borders or Oxfam. Sociological globalization. Information moves almost in real time, together with the interconnection and interdependence of events and their consequences. People move all the time too, mixing and integrating different societies. Technological globalization, the phenomenon by which millions of people are interconnected thanks to the power of the digital world via platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Skype, or YouTube. Graphic globalization is the new organization and hierarchy of different regions of the world that is constantly changing. Moreover, with transportation and flying made so easy and affordable, apart from a few countries with demanding visas, it is possible to travel the world without barely any restrictions. Ecological globalization accounts for the idea of considering planet Earth as a single global entity, a common good all societies should protect, since the weather affects everyone and we are all protected by the same atmosphere. To this regard, it is often said that the NBSP, poorest countries that have been polluting the least, will suffer the most from climate change. The benefits of globalization. Globalization has benefits that cover many different areas. It reciprocally developed economies all over the world and increased cultural exchanges. It also allowed financial exchanges between companies, changing the paradigm of work. Many people are nowadays citizens of the world. The origin of goods became secondary and geographic distance is no longer a barrier for many services to happen. Let's dig deeper. A cultural example. Together with economic and financial globalization, there has obviously also been cultural globalization. Indeed, the multiplication of economic and financial exchanges has been followed by an increase in human exchanges such as migration, expatriation, or traveling. These human exchanges have contributed to the development of cultural exchanges. This means that different customs and habits shared among local communities have been shared among communities that used to have different procedures and even different beliefs. At the same time, books, movies, and music are now instantaneously available all around the world thanks to the development of the digital world and the power of the Internet. These are perhaps the greatest contributors to the speed at which cultural exchanges and globalization are happening. There are also other examples of globalization regarding traditions like NBSP, Black Friday in the US, the Brazilian Carnival or the Indian Holi Festival. They all were originally created following their country's local traditions and beliefs, but as the world got to know them, they are now common traditions in other countries too. The economic negative effects of globalization. Despite its benefits, the economic growth driven by globalization has not been done without awakening criticism. The consequences of globalization are far from homogeneous: income inequalities, disproportional wealth, and trades that benefit parties differently. In the end, one of the criticisms is that some actors, countries, companies, individuals, benefit more from the phenomena of globalization, while others are sometimes perceived as the losers of globalization. As a matter of fact, a recent report from Oxfam says that 82% of the world's generated wealth goes to 1% of the population. The negative effects of globalization on the environment. Many critics have also pointed out that globalization has negative effects on the environment. Thus, the massive development of transport that has been the basis of globalization is also responsible for serious environmental problems such as greenhouse gas emissions, global warming, or air pollution. At the same time, global economic growth and industrial productivity are both the driving force and the major consequences of globalization. They also have big environmental consequences as they contribute to the depletion of natural resources, deforestation and the destruction of ecosystems (BSB), and loss of biodiversity. The worldwide distribution of goods is also creating a big garbage problem, especially on what concerns plastic pollution. Globalization is not only something that will concern and threaten us in the future, but something that is taking place in the present and to which we must first open our eyes.